Hi, I'm Sceery. In the following video, I demonstrate different types of elk bugles and how to use them to locate and call bulls in close. I hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to Ed Sceery's Outdoor Classroom. Ed is owner of Sceery Game Calls in Santa Fe, New Mexico. He holds a PhD in animal science and is nationally known for his work in wildlife communication. He's a licensed outfitter and experienced big game hunter. Sit back and get comfortable as Ed reviews how to use bull elk bugles.
Our fall elk hunt is the most exciting hunt we go on each year. Hi, I'm Ed Sceery. Today I'm going to talk to you about how you can use bull bugles to make your next elk hunt a great success. I had originally planned this video to talk just about one particular kind of bugle, my Bad Attitude Bugle. But I thought it'd be more help to you if I talked about a number of different bugles, including the Bad Attitude Bugle, to show you how to use each bugle effectively, and I'll talk about the advantages and disadvantages of each of the different types of bugles that we use to call elk with. Before I demonstrate any particular bugle, let's talk about bull elk vocalizations. Well, bulls make a wide scale or range of different bugling sound. Well, we can divide it into a class of 3 different types of sounds, 3 basic sounds that I think you need to know. They make quiet, cohesive sounds, which are very quiet, low-intensity sounds. They make sounds that have a higher intensity that we call contact bugles to identify the location of other bulls in their area. And they make highly intense, aggressive bugling sounds to challenge other bulls in the area. So when you're out using a bull bugle, you need to know the sound that you're trying to make and what that sound will relay, what kind of information that sound will relay to other elk in the area. If we're using a low intensity sound, a cohesive sound, has no threat whatsoever to it, that type of sound is a calm, social kind of sound that tends to draw animals together. A more intense sound that they make is a contact type of sound, higher intensity. Bulls will make contact bugles in order to determine the location of other bulls in the territory. Then the higher level intensity sounds are aggressive bugling sounds. These are highly intense sounds, often followed by grunts or screams or roars. And those are the 3 basic classes of bugling sounds that you need to be familiar with. And in your hunting situation, there's different times and different circumstances that you may want to use any one of the different 3 sounds. The low intense contact or the low intense cohesive sounds, the more intense contact type of bugling sound, and the higher intense dominant aggressive bugling sounds. So when we're calling elk, you need to be aware that you're going to make a particular sound. You need to know what sound it is and what kind of response you can expect from that sound when you're blowing on an elk bugle. The first kind of bugle I'll talk about is a typical flute bugle. Basically, it's built like a flute with a little whistle on the end. These are simplest bugles to use. This is what typically that hunters carried 30 or 40 years ago when they were bugling for elk. These make very high-pitched, non-aggressive bugling sounds and are very effective for locating bugles, or locating elk, excuse me. And let me make one of these sounds for you. They're real high-pitched, smooth breaking sounds, and when you make this type of sound, you can expect a nearby bull to give away his location to you. The advantage of a flute bugle is that they're really simple to use. The disadvantage is that that's the only sound that you can make with it. Just a high-pitched breaking bugle, no grunts, not a lot of realism to the sound. Don't take that to mean that these are not effective. Like I said, many years ago, this is all we had for calling up elk were flute bugles, and there's still a lot of hunters that prefer to use flute bugles. High-pitched locating sounds, they'll give you the location of a nearby bull. Another disadvantage of a flute bugle is it doesn't have a lot of volume to it. Does not carry nearly as far as a lot of the newer bugles on the market. Let's look at this little 6x6 bugle that we make in Santa Fe. This is what you call an open reeded bugle, it has an open reed, and you operate this particular bugle by lightly running your teeth on the top of the reed. And by changing the location of your teeth on the reed, you can change the pitch of the sounds coming from the call. This kind of call here we use primarily to make what we call cohesive bugling sounds, and these are the sounds that go from high to low pitch. These are the social sounds that bulls make when they're calm and relaxed. They might be with a group of cows, and routinely they will make real, non-aggressive, cohesive bugling sounds from high to low. These are real soft sounds, and let me demonstrate one for you. And that's about all there is to a little contact or a little cohesive bugle. Now you can make higher pitched contact bugles, the higher pitched breaking bugles with this call by blowing a little louder and changing your position, the position of your teeth on the reed, like this. Make a few little light grunts with it. My preference with this type of call is to use it to make cohesive bugling sounds and use it along with a cow call. I'll do it something like this. Let me get a cow call. Normally when we're trying to attract a bull with this type of bugle, we'll make a few cow calling sounds. We'll blow it in different directions to kind of give a nearby bull the idea that there's more than one cow, and then we'll blow a couple little bugles like this. Normally I only blow one or two. I'm blowing a few more just to demonstrate how it sounds to you. High to low, you're just barely running your teeth on it. And sliding your teeth up on the reed, which lengthens the operating part of the reed and gets you that high to low sound. What you'll find is this type of cohesive bugling sound has no threat whatsoever to nearby bulls. And so if you make this sound, you can be assured that sound won't chase away any nearby bulls. If you make this sound with some cow calling sounds, any nearby bull, particularly prior to and during the rut, will be strongly encouraged to come over and investigate the source of the sounds. Prior to and during the rut, the bulls are in search of cows to breed, to gather a harem, and so these sounds would encourage a bull to come to your location. Now let's talk about a pipe bugle. We call this our locating bugle because we primarily use this kind of bugle, like the flute bugle, to locate the position of nearby bulls, and also to locate them without chasing them away or being too aggressive that might frighten them away. We call it a pipe bugle because basically all it is a twisted coiled pipe. We've put a megaphone on the end that will make it quite a bit louder than it had been just the pipe alone. The advantage of this bugle is that it's very, very easy to use. It's like a flute bugle. It does not have a reed, so you don't have to learn to use a reed. To learn how to use this bugle, all you have to do is learn how to breathe, basically. Now, all you do is blow lightly through it, and the lighter that you blow through it, the better that it sounds. real smooth, high-pitched breaking bugle. There's no aggression displayed by a bull that makes that type of bugle. The bull that makes this smooth, high-pitched breaking bugle is doing it solely to announce his position and to identify the position of other bulls in the territory. The disadvantage of this bugle is that you can't make grunts with it, nor can you make aggressive bugling sounds with it. All that this bugle will do, just like the Flute Bugle and this little 6x6 bugle, is make nice high-pitched breaking sounds. A big advantage of this call here is that it requires so little air to blow it. Just as light as you can blow it. And with this megaphone on the end, it's particularly loud. Another advantage of this call is that you can inhale on it very lightly and again get good bugling sounds. I'm inhaling very lightly on it, so for you flatlanders that are from Kansas and Nebraska where it's flat and the altitude is pretty low, if you're coming out into the Rocky Mountains to hunt elk, where we frequently go above 10 or 11,000 feet, this particular bugle doesn't require a lot of air, where some of the other more aggressive bugles require quite a lot of air to blow, and flatlanders could have some problems in the high country. So an advantage of this is it doesn't require a lot of air. A disadvantage of this is that you can basically only make contact bugles with it. Now the contact bugles are certainly great for locating bull elk, and they're great for identifying where the elk are without chasing them away. Again, it's often common for us to combine cow calling with this type of bugle. When we use a locating type of bugling sound, no matter which kind of bugle we're making that sound with, the idea of a locating bugle, of course, like the name says, we're trying to locate the position of a bull. And typically, if we're hunting for bulls using this kind of bugle, we'll locate the position of a bull with the bugle, and then we'll put the bugle away, and we'll stalk in close to the bull, and we'll switch over to use a cow call to attract the bull a few yards to our position, or get him headed toward us, because typically they won't come to the source of these sounds. Occasionally they will, but don't expect it or don't count on them to do that. We'll use this kind of bugle to locate elk with. We'll use a Flute Bugle to locate the position of elk. And they're very, very effective for getting bulls to answer you. This is particularly true from about mid-August right on through the rut, which lasts through the middle of October. So if you're going out on a elk hunt, anytime, generally our seasons are from the 1st of September on through the fall months. These bull bugles for locating bugles can be very effective. Another advantage of this particular bugle is that you can take the megaphone off of it, and it's small enough you can stick it in your pocket. Now that's one of the benefits that I really like about it. A lot of times when I hunt, I'll put the megaphone in my pack and just carry this part of the bugle and use just this without the megaphone. It's still pretty loud even without the megaphone. Just requires very little air to use. Now there's a lot of hunters that particularly like to use diaphragm mouth calls for bugling elk. Now normally a hunter will use a diaphragm call in the grunt tube. The grunt tube basically provides more resonance, and it sounds a little neater than without the grunt tube. The grunt tube is not necessary. we all like the sound to be more realistic, and so if we use a mouth diaphragm call and project the sound through a tube, it gives it more resonance, sounds more realistic, and we have more fun doing it. So let me try this diaphragm in this bugle tube and see what kind of sounds that we can make with this. Not too good my first try. Let me try again. You got to warm up a little bit. Now, I'll make different types of bugling sounds with this for you. Let's make the high to low pitch, cohesive sounds, the social sounds that bulls make. Just a little short bugle that I demonstrated on the little 6x6. These sounds go from high to low, and normally when I make that kind of sound again, I'll combine that with some cow calling sound. Let's make a couple again. Obviously, one of the disadvantages of using diaphragms is they take a little practice. You take a new one out like that, you stick it in your mouth, you need to use it a little bit before you get it to work properly for you. Just in a matter of a minute here or two, it's starting to work a little better, and this will work just fine. Now, these are the sounds that I like here. If you combine those with some cow calling sounds, nearby bulls will find that particularly attractive. That's a cohesive sound. Now let's take this same diaphragm and make some contact bugles. A few high-pitched breaking bugles. That's a type of bugle, again, that you want to use when you're trying to locate the position of a bull. That is more of a threat, though, to a nearby bull than a contact or than a cohesive high to low pitch bugle. The softer and quieter the bugle, the less a threat. The more air you use and more force that the bugle is made with, obviously that's more of a threat to a nearby bull. There's times when you want to make threats, and there's times when you don't want to make threats to bulls. Let's make a little cohesive, you could call it bull talk if you want, because it's a similar sound that cows use, that it's just a lower pitch sound. Now a contact or locating bugle. Okay. The advantage of this over the other bugles that we've talked about is that you can also make aggressive bugling sounds with this call. The grunt tube provides a lot of resonance. You work the diaphragm with your mouth, your tongue, and can make a lot more aggressive sound, and you can include grunts with this type of call. See, again, it takes a little practice for me too. but they worked really good with a little practice. And put the diaphragm in. If you haven't tried this before, you put the diaphragm up against the roof of your mouth, and with tongue pressure against the reed, you make the sound. Try to make another aggressive bugle. Okay, now that is, again, what I call an aggressive bugle. That type of bugle will get a bull to respond to you, give away his location by answering you, just like the other bugles that I've already demonstrated. The problem with this kind of bugle is very often when you make an aggressive bugling sound, a bull will answer you and he'll head for parts unknown, he'll leave. And this has been the problem with this kind of bugle for many years, is that hunters did not know that when they make big aggressive bugling sounds, that very often they would chase bulls away. And what we've learned over the years is we've learned that there's times when you can use these bull bugles very, very effectively and really increase the luck and the excitement on your hunt. And there's times when it's best that you don't use them aggressively. And this is one of the keys to calling bulls, is to know when to use them and when not to use them. The little cohesive sounds, pretty safe sounds to use. You'll hardly ever chase a bull away from you with that kind of sound. Very often they'll answer you. Very, very often if you use those kind of sounds along with a cow call, the bulls will come to your position. Now let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of using a grunt tube and a diaphragm. The biggest disadvantage of using a diaphragm and a grunt tube is about 50% of the hunters that are out hunting elk have problems using diaphragm calls. If any of you have false teeth, you'll find, or plates, you'll find that you cannot use a diaphragm very effectively, or you can't use them at all. And then there's a lot of guys that just have problems using them. Diaphragms take, occasionally, or with some guys, diaphragms take a lot of time to practice and learn how to use them. I think it took me about a month for me to learn how to use a diaphragm for turkey and elk hunting. I've seen some guys come into my office and they've never used diaphragms, and you give them a diaphragm and within 5 minutes they figure it out. Other hunters will try for a couple years and they'll never figure out how to use a diaphragm. When you put diaphragms up in the back of the roof of your mouth, a lot of guys will start to gag from something being back in the back of their mouth, and it initiates your gag reflex, and you just can't use them. So that's a big disadvantage of diaphragm calls. Like I said, you don't need to use a grunt tube with it. It gives it a more realistic sound, but you can use a diaphragm, and particularly with the cohesive high to low bull talking sounds. just cup your hands over in front of your mouth and make the sounds without the tube, and that can be very effective too. If you want to make locating sounds with a bugle, again, cup your hands and you can make more aggressive bugling sounds with a diaphragm. Good locating bugles. The tubes are pretty bulky to carry around with you. That's a disadvantage of this kind of bugle over a flute bugle or the small open reed 6x6 bugle. The flute bugle, you can stick it in your pack or carry. It's pretty small. This particular one I made so I can collapse it smaller or take it apart, carry it in my pack. And this particular bugle, you can just fold it in half and stick it in your pocket. So that's a big advantage of these smaller bugles. And the same thing holds true with the pipe bugle, is that it's real small and compact and you can carry it in your pocket. This is a great call for carrying in your pocket. It fits right in the pocket of my camouflage coveralls, and so it's not big, bulky in the way like a big grunt tube. Now let's talk about my new Bad Attitude Bugle. This, of course, uses a large grunt tube or resonating tube to produce realistic sounds, quite similar to using a diaphragm in a grunt tube. It's similar to a diaphragm call in that it uses a latex reed to vibrate to produce the sounds. Disadvantage of this over the pipe bugle or the flute bugle is this requires a little practice to use. I built it so that it's quite easy to use though. With this little ledge on here, you rest your lip right above the ledge, put very little pressure against the latex to produce the sounds. Let me demonstrate. First I'll demonstrate a little cohesive high to low bugle, a little bull talk for you. It's simple to make with this call. You can tell through the resonating tube, it gives it a realistic sound. Now if you want to make contact or locating bugles with this call, all you do is use a little bit more air through it. One of the keys to using any of the bugles that we're talking about today is that most of the time when somebody's learning how to use a bugle call, they will try a little bit too hard. They're really easy to use, and if you're having problems using a bugle, back way off on the amount of effort you're trying to use it with. Let's make a contact bugle. I'm just going to blow it a little bit more. Nice, smooth, high-pitched breaking bugles. It's got a nice mellow sound that a lot of hunters like, and it's a pretty realistic sound. Now, a disadvantage of a large, aggressive bugling sound is, of course, it takes more effort to make. Now, that's with any kind of bugle that you use. Typically, if you're going to make more aggressive sounds, it's going to require more air to use. If you're a flatlander, I'd encourage you to practice a little bit with this bugle before you get up above 10,000 feet because you might pass out. So let's make another nice, smooth, high-pitched breaking contact bugle. Now remember, a contact bugle, you make that kind of bugling sound to get another bull to answer you. It's not aggressive enough to chase a bull away. He'll typically answer you and give away his location to you. Okay, if you put a little more effort into this call, you can make more aggressive bugles and follow it with some grunts. And grunts are really easy to make with this call, and that's an advantage of this call. You can make real good aggressive bugles and really easy grunts following the bugle. Now, Let me try it for you. Put a little throatiness into the call if you like. I'll make some a high-pitched aggressive bugle, and then I'll break it down and make some grunts first without my throat, and then I'll make a set with some real low, coarse, throaty sounds for you. Okay, that's without my throat. Can you hear how realistic it sounds if you put a little throat into the sound? And that's my preference if I'm going to make a large aggressive bugle. I want it to sound as realistic as I can. Okay, the advantages and disadvantages again with this call is that it can get you into trouble if you don't use it properly. And so that's what I'm going to teach you how to do. I'm going to teach you how to use it properly. Now, if we want to go out and we want to call some satellite bulls from around a herd, there's a herd bull out in a herd with his harem of cows. There's typically always satellite bulls that are trying to get into the herd. They'll have to fight the herd bull for access to the cows, or if there's some other nearby cows, they will approach you. What we want to do is we want to sound like we're a small or a young bull, a non-aggressive bull, and some cows. That would encourage satellite bulls to approach you. And it works quite effectively. So if you are out hunting just prior to the rut or during the rut, you can make this kind of sound, and it'll be very effective for attracting satellite bulls to you. So let me make a non-aggressive bull bugling sound. And then do some cow calling. And I'd make those sounds. I'd stay in the same position, be as quiet as I can, have some good shooting lanes or shooting alleys so that I have a good clear shot at a bull, and I'd stay in that position and wait for the bull to approach me. Now, it's real common for a bull to answer you before he approaches, or answer you during his approach so that you know he's coming. It's also common for him to come in quietly, so you never know if they're coming or not unless you actually can see the bull when you're calling him. If you can see the bulls that you're going to call, it makes it much easier for you. That kind of elk calling can hardly get you into any trouble at all. When you get to more aggressive sounds, I may have mentioned that that's when you can get into some serious trouble. And this is how you avoid it. If you want to go out and make real aggressive bugling sounds to call bull elk, you need to pay attention to the sound that they answer you with. So if I go out and make an aggressive bugle like that, I want to pay particular attention to the bull that answers me. And what I'll do is I'll wait and listen for him to answer me again. I won't call him back, or I won't respond to his bugle. If I bugle and I get a response, then I'll wait a few minutes, and I may wait as long as 15 minutes to listen and wait for him to bugle again. If the second time he bugles, his bugle sounds to be closer than the first time, I'll answer him back with a bugle as close as I can mimic to him as I can. So that's one of the keys to calling elk, is listening to the position of the bull. Is he closer to you than he was the first time he responded, or is he further away? If he's closer to you, then obviously your bugling sound is working. And if it's working, then he bugles at you, you bugle back at him. Make an aggressive bugle right back to him. Then stop and wait. You want the bull to start calling you at this point and start threatening you and making aggressive bugling sounds to you. And when he does, make an aggressive sound back. And continue that as long as he continues his approach to you. I think to add some encouragement to this bull, throw some cow calling in, make him think that you're a large, aggressive bull and you've got a harem of cows with you, and that encourages this aggressive bull to come toward you. Now, the other thing that could have happened was you made a large, aggressive bugling sound, you waited and heard him answer you the first time, then you waited again, and the second time he answered you, he was further away from you. Well, you've chased him away. And so if you blow on this bugle after that, if he's already started to move away from you because you've been making aggressive bugles, that's a time you better put the big bugling sounds away or stop making big aggressive bugling sounds. If the bull's moving away from you, the only way to get to this bull is by what I read recently a guy referred to as leapfrogging. And we've done this for many years. It takes a lot of leg work and some effort on your part. But you know where the bull was when you first heard him, and you know where he was the second time you heard him. He was further away from you. So if you're going to get this bull, what you need to do is you need to make a big wide circle, wide enough so that he can't hear you going through the trees, and try to get out in front of that bull. And if you get out in front of that bull, then you can have success calling him up. You get out in front of him, use a cow call, and lure him to you. It will encourage his approach to you if you use a cow call. He will assume that the large aggressive bull stayed back where he was the first time he heard him. And so if you get a bull to move away from you, quit making aggressive bugling sounds, leapfrog way up around ahead of him, and use some cow calling sounds to lure him to you. And that's one of the best ways that we know of to get a bull elk, is to leapfrog around a bull that's leaving you and lure him over to you with a cow call. Now let's review the different bugles again and talk about advantages and disadvantages of each again. First one is the old-time flute bugle. Advantages: it has no reed. It requires no effort to learn how to blow on it. You just blow through it. Relatively compact, small little bugles. You can take them apart, put them in your pocket or your backpack, and carry them with you. The disadvantage with this kind of bugle is that you cannot make aggressive bugling sounds with it. Now we'll talk about the 6x6 bugle. This is the small bugle. Again, very compact. You can put it in your pocket. This one requires some practice to use it. It's got an open reed. Although it's pretty rare, you could possibly damage the reed and you'd be out of business during your hunt. Pretty easy to use. Requires, though, some practice. You can make small cohesive bugles with it. And you can make locating bugles with it. Pipe Locator Bugle. The advantage of this bugle is it can be taken apart, carried in your pocket. It's not big and bulky. Has no reed whatsoever. Big advantage of this is it requires very little air to blow it. So flatlanders, this is the call for you. If you are a novice elk hunter and having a lot of experience blowing on elk bugles, don't have a lot of lung power to put behind a bugle, and you just want to use a bugle to locate the position of an elk. Again, no reed, just blow lightly through it. Or inhale lightly through it. Diaphragm elk call and a grunt tube. A good combination if you're real experienced using diaphragm calls. The advantage of this call is you can make a whole range of different sounds, cohesive sounds, contact locating bugles, and real aggressive bugles and good grunts. Disadvantage, of course, is it's bulky to carry and that a lot of hunters cannot use diaphragm calls. The new Bad Attitude Bugle, it's a very versatile call. Of course, again, like the diaphragm and the grunt tube, it has a good grunt tube with it. It's a little bulky to carry, provides real good resonance for you hunters that are looking for a real realistic sound. It'll give it to you. Advantage, you can make all different kinds of sounds with this. It's probably, without question, the most realistic sounding bugle that we make. Very easy to use. It doesn't require the skill or the practice to use this that a diaphragm does. I expect the first time you pick it up and try it, you will start making good bugling sounds. So let's go through a series of sounds with this. Non-aggressive bugles. Remember, you want to combine non-aggressive bugles with a cow call to attract elk, particularly satellite bulls. Locating bugles. Real high pitch to get bulls to answer you, give away their location. And big aggressive bugles, dominant aggressive bugles to challenge bulls during the rut. Doesn't require that much air to use. We have replacement reeds with it, just like diaphragms. The latex will wear out over time, and we sell this with a set of extra replacement reeds, and you can purchase extra ones if you need them. Typically they last a while, and they're really easy to change. Let me show you how to change them. What I do is I roll off the two little rubber bands, one at a time. And that frees up the latex rubber. Now, if you've used it quite a bit and stretched out the latex, you can just turn it around and use one of the other straight sides. Now, put this call together. You put the latex on it. You hold one side with your thumb and the opposite side with your middle finger. And then you take a retaining ring, hold it with your forefinger, and stretch it right over the top of the mouthpiece. Once you've got that in place, then you can stretch and pull the latex so you have it positioned exactly even at the end of the mouthpiece. And you get the right tension. Once you get that, a little practice, it'll take a little practice for you. You can play with one of them and practice to get the right tension. You get the right tension, give it a try. Works fine for you. Again, hold the retaining ring with your forefinger and stretch it over the bottom of the mouthpiece. And then you're set. The two rings will hold the latex without moving around while you're hunting. And then the cap will secure it and protect the latex rubber while you're walking through the forest. If you want to make some real deep, aggressive bugles with this call, you can loosen up the latex on it and pull it down even further on the mouthpiece and put a wrinkle in the latex, and you can practice and you'll learn how to make screams with this call. This is the only bugle call that I'm aware of that you can make screams with. Loosen it up. The screams are some of the most aggressive bugles that elk make during the peak of the rut when they're competing for cows in heat. So if you're hunting during the peak of the rut and you want to make a very aggressive bugling sound, that's the one I would recommend. Get right close into the breeding herd. Loosen up the latex, put a lot of pressure on it when you blow. And you can make screams with this bugle. I would caution you not to make screams with a bugle unless you're right close to a breeding herd of elk. If you're trying to attract a bull elk and he's at a little distance from you with some cows and you make real aggressive bugles, remember the chance of him gathering up his cows and moving away is pretty good. Again, pay attention to where the bull is when you first hear him bugle, and wait for him to bugle again and find out his location. Now let's talk about bugling sounds for a minute in different bulls. A lot of hunters have always believed that a young bull would sound like this, and a mature bull would sound like this. Well, it's my feeling that all bulls make this full range of sounds. The bull that's in control of the harem of cows and fighting and challenging other satellite bulls for control of the cows, in order to maintain his position of dominance within that particular herd, what he does is he makes very loud, coarse, aggressive bugles as a threat to other nearby bulls. At the same time, you may hear around the herd satellite bulls who aren't in immediate or close contact with other bulls, or they're not fighting. They will make less aggressive bugles. So while a herd bull may be making real aggressive bugles, a satellite bull may not be making bugles that are that aggressive. And other bulls around the area may only be making what we call cohesive bugles. And again, cohesive bugles, although they're not big, loud, and aggressive, and they don't sound nearly as neat as a big aggressive bugles, they can be very, very effective in attracting bulls. Again, use these nice little contact bugles and some cow calling sounds to attract satellite bulls to you. Let's talk for a minute about dominance and dominant herd bulls. It seems to be the goal of a lot of elk hunters to call and take the herd bull. And there's some elk calls on the market called herd bull calls, and the idea behind that is to get you hunters that want to call a herd bull to call them. Well, if a herd bull's got a harem of 15 or 20 cows and he's in control of those cows, there's very little that you can do to call him away from those cows. Typically it can't be done. Now you will do it on occasion, but a very rare occasion. Just because he's a dominant bull in control of the herd doesn't mean that he's the largest bull in the forest. Now we know that there's a herd bull that's in control of the herd, and there's satellite bulls around the herd trying to get in and breed those cows when they come in heat during the rut. And so a herd bull will be in control of the herd of cows for a period of time. This period of time may be 1 or 2 days, or it may be as long as a week. The bull will take control of the herd. He will be fighting continuously with the satellite bulls to keep them away from the cows, and he will be breeding as many cows as he can. And what that does is it wears them down and it tires them out. In a few days of this constant activity, he'll tire out, much more so than the satellite bulls. And at this point, one of the satellite bulls will come in and take over the herd, while the bull that was the herd bull, he'll drop out. All of a sudden, he becomes a satellite bull. And so the herd bull changes a number of times during the rut. And so just because you get a bull that right today is a satellite bull, he may have been the herd bull 2 days ago. Or he may have been the herd bull had you not taken him. In a few more days, he may have become the herd bull. So just going out to hunt for the herd bull, it doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot to me. What you're looking for is a large bull, and you find these typically around a harem of cows. The large bull may be in control of the harem, or he may be outside of the breeding herd trying to gain control of the harem. So when you're going out to try to call a herd bull, you may call a satellite bull. The bull that's in control of the herd has little incentive to leave those cows and come to your location. Well, I hope this discussion on bull bugles will help you in your elk hunting activities. Bull bugles, though, are just tools that can help you with your elk hunting. Along with these tools, you need to use common sense, good judgment, and use good hunting skills and techniques. In addition to bull bugles, I'd encourage you to carry some cow elk calls along with you. They're super effective for attracting bulls. You can use the cow elk calls separately or in combination with bull bugles for calling up bulls. Before I go, I want to remind you to follow your local game and fish laws, respect the rights of private property owners, and above all, be careful with your firearms and other weapons. This is Ed Sceery with Sceery Game Calls in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I wish you the best of luck on all your hunts. Adios.
For more information about Sceery game calls and hunting products, check your local sporting goods supplier or phone toll-free 1-800-327-4322. Sceery is your only source for premium outfitter-grade game calls.